How do, guys? I just want to have a quick discussion about some new sentencing guidelines that have come out and just further highlight not only do we have an actual two-tiered system of justice within the United Kingdom, but I think it's further evidence as well about how the British state is absolutely terrified of basically heterosexual white indigenous Britons from all corners and all four nations of these islands sort of getting out the station. I have spoken in the past about basically, and I won't go into it too deeply, but basically the British establishment is terrified, especially of the English becoming racially aware of themselves and organising, like we saw in the Troubles in Northern Ireland, because obviously England has 55 million people. So you talk about population in Northern Ireland of about 1.5 million people. You scale that up to 55 million people. You've got an out of control situation that's happening. So the British state is constantly on vigil for any sort of English identitarianism, and they're always trying to tamp that out with great efficiency and very swiftly when they do find it happening. So this new sentencing guidelines, by the way, is nothing new, and we'll discuss that in a minute. But anyway, I'll just get it up and we'll have a quick read through it. Right, guys. So we've got the guidelines here, and we'll just have a quick read through, and then we'll have a discussion about them. So a pre-sentence report will normally be considered necessary if the offender belongs to one or more of the following cohorts: at risk of first custodial sentence and or risk of a custodial sentence of 2 years or less. Young adult, typically 18 to 25. Female, that's it, just female. There is a bit more to that below, but just female on its own is enough. From an ethnic minority, cultural minority and or faith minority community. Now, the female bit here is pregnant or postnatal, sole or primary carer for dependent relatives. Notice how that isn't relative for males, though. That's for females. Or if the current considers that one or more of the following may apply to the offender: have disclosed they are transgender, has or may have any addiction issues, has or may have a serious chronic medical condition or physical disability or mental ill health, learning disabilities, including developmental disorders or neurodiverse conditions, or brain injury damage. Well, at least I'm protected there, guys, with neurodiverse conditions. Woohoo! I've got the get out of jail free card. Screw you, losers. Or the court considers that the offender is, or there is a risk that they may have been a victim of domestic abuse, physical or sexual abuse, violent or threatening behaviour, coercive or controlling behaviour, economic, psychological, emotional, or any other abuse, modern slavery or trafficking or coercion, grooming, intimidation or exploitation. This is a non-exhaustive list. It's just wild, that list. Notice who wasn't on there, and that's what we'll talk about in a second. So what can we learn from that list that we've just seen? Well, firstly, the British state does actually hate heterosexual white men. As I've repeatedly said before, they have got a real hate boner for people like me. Now, luckily, I'm neurodivergent. I am actually diagnosed with autism, so I'm on the special boy list. I'm a good boy, but because I'm heterosexual, white and male, I'm only just a good boy. Like, I'm literally that much above like all you other guys who aren't autistic, I'm afraid. So, you know, I ain't doing much better than you guys. But you know what? At least I'll get shot after you guys when they start lining us up all against the wall way. I suppose I get to live that little bit longer than you guys, you know, when the revolution does happen, you know. But no, seriously, this is nothing new. And I'm sorry to burst everybody's bubble who's thinking, oh wow, this is a revolution in British justice. No, it's not. This has been happening for years, I'm afraid. I remember being aware of this quite a while ago when there was discussion going on about sentencing disparities between white and black males, and it actually turned out that black males were getting sentenced for longer, not because the judges were sentencing them more harshly, but it was because they were repeatedly being let off in court, whereas white males were more likely to get sentenced for first-time offences. But that meant because they were being sentenced immediately and they had very short rap sheets, the sentences were very lenient, whereas by the time the black men were getting sentenced, they had whole strings of crimes attached to the names, and it left the judges with absolutely no alternative but to give them incredibly harsh sentences, which I think is failing those individuals anyway, you know. And that, you know, people would turn around and say, well, they're trying to be racially racial justice and all that sort of crap. But all it's done is it's actually led to those individuals thinking that they can get away with crime, and it's encouraged bad behaviour. And rather than learning from avoiding going to prison earlier on, they've just thought, oh, I've got away with that, I can get away with it again and again and again. And they've ended up committing worse and worse crimes and more serious crimes. So it's actually had a negative effect. And again, this is coming from a pathological ideology of treating people like children. It's just weird. But going back to my other point at the beginning of the video, I do also think that this is the British state gearing up for what they're seeing coming in the future. I do think that Britain is in the preliminary stages of serious civil unrest coming in the not too distant future. And I do think that the British state is going to start trying to come down on people very, very hard, very, very quickly. And this is part of that process. Although with this as well, this wasn't brought in by Labour. So this isn't related to Southport. This was fermented, just like with the Chagos Island deal, by the Tories. But it is merely just, my understanding is it's just a consolidation of things that were already in existence anyway. So like, for example, women, just by being a woman, you get sentenced differently to being a man. Like, literally, a man and a woman can both commit something like a murder, and the woman will get a lesser sentence just because she's a woman. That is actually insane. That is actually insane, in my opinion. You know, like, it should just be equal treatment under the law, but it really isn't. But that's the country we live in. And then we get told that we actually live in a heterosexual white male patriarchy. There you go. Anyway, just a really quick video. Think about that, you know, make your own mind up. Go check this stuff out for yourself. I just think it's shocking. I just think it further highlights that the British state hates us. And then they're going to ask you to go to war and die in Ukraine, guys. Go and die in Ukraine so that Ukrainians can have Drag Queen Story Hour, and so that Mohammed and Ahmed can live in a 5-star hotel after they've entered the country illegally. And they're probably going to go out and molest a bunch of little children as well, but they'll get a slap on the wrist for that. So don't you worry about that, guys. Don't you worry about that. Anyway, I'll speak to you later. Thank you and goodbye.